Some guys were explaining to me, it was like, you would play at the local hood club. There was like a hood club that you could perform at. And then that was owned by the local drug dealer that was washing money there.
Right.
So this is where the idea of like checking in comes from. Have you heard of this term?
Yes.
Like when we got hit with Hit 'Em Up, I had to make the call to Biggie. And I said, we're not going to respond. Somebody's going to get hurt if we respond. Tupac hit us with Hit 'Em Up. And that joint was cold. You know what I'm saying? I was listening to that.
The walls are closing in on one of the most powerful men in music, and what was once an untouchable empire built on fame, fortune, and influence is now unraveling in the harsh light of a federal courtroom. Sean Diddy Combs, the mogul who shaped hip-hop culture for decades, is now facing the fight of his life, and not just in the public eye, but in a legal battle that could destroy everything he's ever built. For years, rumors swirled in the shadows, disturbing whispers about abuse, manipulation, and a hidden world of control masked by red carpets and platinum records. But now those whispers are echoing in court as the case against Diddy transforms from online speculation into a full-blown federal investigation that threatens to expose decades of buried secrets. What's happening behind the courtroom doors isn't just scandal, it's a story of power pushed to its darkest limits. Cassie, the once silent ex-girlfriend at the center of it all, has broken her silence and is set to become the prosecution's first witness. With tapes, testimony, and chilling details that have already started leaking to the press.
You think it's over?
I think it's over for him as like a figure in entertainment.
Right. But do you
Like,
think it's over as him as far
going
as
to jail?
like he gets a cell right next to R. Kelly?
I don't think so. I don't think
Really?
he gets locked
I think he
up.
skates.
I think he skates. Or he goes to
Really?
like Bali.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a move, huh?
Diddy's carefully curated image is being ripped apart piece by piece. Federal agents, celebrity lawyers, and media giants are now entangled in a story that's more explosive than anyone imagined. But even now, many are asking, how deep does this go? What are they really trying to cover up? And how did one of the biggest names in entertainment go from chart topper to courtroom defendant almost overnight? Stay locked in, because this story isn't just about Diddy's fall. It's about what was hidden in plain sight all along. The fall of Sean Diddy Combs didn't start with handcuffs. It started with a tremble in his voice, a glance across a courtroom, and a single sentence that shocked everyone. "I'm feeling a little nervous today." For a man who spent decades portraying himself as fearless, in control, and larger than life, those words echoed louder than any headline. On the surface, he entered the courtroom like a mogul, calmly dressed in a button-down shirt and crewneck sweater, sporting the gray of a man who had seen it all. But beneath that exterior was something rare for Diddy: vulnerability. Federal courtrooms aren't stages, and this trial isn't a performance. It's the beginning of a very real, very public dismantling of a career built on image and invincibility. As jury selection began, it became clear this case wouldn't be swept away by money, fame, or connections. Prosecutors came ready, defense teams scrambled for control, and even veteran celebrity attorney Mark Garagos was spotted advising Diddy's camp, signaling just how high the stakes are. What makes this all the more alarming is the list of names already circling the courtroom: Kanye West, Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, none accused of wrongdoing, but all potentially entangled in what could become a landmark case for the music industry. The gravity of the situation became impossible to ignore when Cassie was confirmed as the first witness, bringing not just explosive accusations, but years of silence finally shattered. And as the court prepared for what was expected to be an 8-week legal war, one thing became obvious: Diddy wasn't just defending his freedom, he was fighting to preserve the last remaining fragments of an empire now under siege.
Yeah, I mean, the rap game was crazy. That's a thing a lot of people don't realize is like, back in the day, especially like early rap game, you weren't just going to play at, you know, what's the random theater that you would play in LA? What's like a big theater? I'm trying to think. The Orpheum or something like that.
Wiltern.
No amount of PR, denial, or spin could mask the truth anymore. The carefully built persona of a cultural icon was now colliding headfirst with federal prosecutors, courtroom rules, and evidence that couldn't be danced around. From mogul to defendant, from untouchable to uncertain, the fall of Diddy had officially begun, and the world was watching every move. Cassie Ventura's decision to testify publicly against Sean Diddy Combs didn't just send shockwaves through the courtroom, it sent a message to the entire industry that silence is no longer protection. Once known for her music, her modeling career, and her high-profile relationship with Diddy, Cassie is now stepping into a very different spotlight, the witness stand. She's the only woman among the alleged victims who's agreed to testify without anonymity, and what makes this even more jaw-dropping is that she's currently pregnant with her third child and still pushing forward, ready to face Diddy and expose what she says she endured for years. This isn't just about past abuse, it's about a woman willing to risk everything to bring the truth into the open. Prosecutors have already stated that Cassie will be the centerpiece of their opening week, and they're not holding back. Her testimony is expected to be raw, disturbing, and deeply personal, detailing years of manipulation, emotional trauma, and physical violence behind closed doors. For too long, the public saw only red carpets, photo ops, and music videos, but behind the scenes, Cassie says she was being controlled, coerced, and silenced. And now, that silence is broken. Her story has already started to unravel Diddy's narrative, especially after footage leaked showing him physically assaulting her at the Intercontinental Hotel. That tape was just a preview.
At the center of it all are so-called freak-offs, orchestrated erotic activities where Diddy allegedly directed men and women in X-rated performances. Many were said to be unknowingly filmed and blackmailed. Purportedly, victims, some underage, were controlled using threats, violence, narcotics, and money. Raids on Diddy's homes uncovered videos, firearms, and curiously, over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant.
Now she's bringing the rest of the story into the courtroom, live and unfiltered. And while Diddy's legal team scrambles to paint her as a willing participant or even an aggressor, the timing, the evidence, and the consistency of her claims are turning public opinion fast. This isn't just another celebrity breakup turned ugly. This is a survivor returning to the scene of the crime with receipts, and she's not backing down. What Cassie reveals next could permanently dismantle everything Diddy has spent decades building, and she's just getting started. If Cassie's words shake the courtroom, then the video might just burn it to the ground. The now infamous surveillance footage from the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles showing Diddy physically assaulting Cassie in a hallway has become the smoking gun that prosecutors hope will tip the scales of justice. In the clip, Diddy is seen chasing Cassie, slamming her to the floor, dragging her across the hallway, and shoving her back into their hotel room, all while she visibly tries to escape. There's no audio, but the visuals alone scream louder than words ever could. The disturbing footage sparked national outrage the moment it hit the internet, with fans, celebrities, and media outlets reacting in disbelief at the brutal reality of what had been hidden behind the glitz of celebrity life. Initially, Diddy issued an apology, claiming full responsibility and calling the incident inexcusable, even admitting that he was disgusted by his own actions. But now, under the pressure of court, his legal team has backtracked, insisting the footage is fake, altered, and out of context. They argue CNN edited and sped up the video to make Diddy look worse, and that the original copy has been mysteriously destroyed.
Checking in was basically like, hey, I want to make sure we're good because you're going to pay me, and if I don't check in, you might rob me because you're putting me up at the hotel and you know everything that's going on, and you're a drug dealer.
An allegation CNN flatly denies. The prosecutors, however, are using this video not just as proof of violence, but as evidence of control, fear, and coercion, themes that define the rest of their case. If Diddy's team succeeds in getting the footage tossed out, it could change the trajectory of the trial. But if it's allowed in, and all signs point to yes, the jury will be forced to confront an undeniable truth that the man once praised as a genius mogul was capable of terrifying violence behind closed doors. Legal experts have already noted the power of this clip in shaping public opinion, but in the courtroom, its weight is even heavier, because this isn't hearsay, it's not speculation, it's visual proof of something horrific, and when the jury watches it play out frame by frame, the question won't just be what Diddy did that night, it'll be how much worse it got when the cameras weren't rolling. Beneath the surface of Diddy's lavish lifestyle, the yachts, the designer suits, the billion-dollar deals, lies a world far darker than the public ever imagined, and it's this hidden realm that prosecutors are now pulling into the light. Central to the case are what insiders and witnesses have dubbed freak-offs, alleged drug-fueled sex parties where women were not just invited, but controlled, recorded, and in some cases, coerced. According to court documents and media reports, Diddy orchestrated elaborate gatherings offerings that went far beyond Hollywood hedonism, involving paid participants, narcotics, surveillance equipment, and a twisted hierarchy of power. Prosecutors claimed these events weren't random or casual. They were calculated tools for domination and leverage. Sources close to the investigation suggest Diddy would not only host these parties, but also film them, sometimes without consent, allegedly creating a library of compromising footage that could be used to silence, manipulate, or blackmail those involved.
Sean Diddy Combs is facing another long list of sexual misconduct allegations. He's in jail awaiting trials on charges of trafficking women for sex parties. He's pleaded not guilty. An attorney in Houston says he represents 120 people who say Combs abused them as well.
It's this element, covert recordings and high-profile guests, that has triggered comparisons to Jeffrey Epstein's operation, with whispers that Diddy may have used the same tactics to protect himself and expand his influence. Joe Rogan, Cat Williams, and others have spoken out about the rumors, referencing stories of professional escorts, hidden cameras, and celebrities caught in compromising situations, often under the influence or unaware they were being watched. Some claim that Cassie herself was forced to participate in these events, allegedly pimped out to other men as Diddy observed, issuing commands or watching from the shadows. The prosecution argues that these so-called freak-offs were never about consent. They were about power, compliance, and building an empire of silence. As damning as the accusations are, what truly terrifies those close to the case is the possibility that Diddy wasn't acting alone, that there were enablers, co-conspirators, and even famous names involved who knew exactly what was happening behind closed doors. And with reports suggesting that more tapes exist, possibly involving well-known public figures, the courtroom isn't the only place Diddy should be worried about. If even a fraction of what's been described is proven true, then the story of these parties isn't just salacious, it's criminal. And the world may soon learn just how far those freak-offs really went. What makes this trial different from past celebrity scandals isn't just the shocking footage or the powerful names involved, it's the federal government's strategy, and it's one that's typically reserved for criminal organizations, not music moguls. The charges against Sean Diddy Combs go far beyond allegations of abuse. They include racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation for illicit purposes, all under the powerful RICO statute.
25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of.
Combs' lawyer said he denies any claim that he sexually abused anyone, including minors.
RICO, or the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, is usually applied to dismantle mafia families and international crime rings, but prosecutors are now using it to argue that Diddy's businesses, image, and public empire were a front for something far more sinister. According to the indictment, Diddy didn't just act alone. He allegedly built a system of handlers, enablers, and participants who helped organize events, procure victims, and keep everyone quiet. The government claims this web of influence wasn't accidental. It was strategic, premeditated, and operated like a shadow corporation, leveraging wealth, fear, and fame to maintain control. Behind the glamorous parties and business deals were a series of underground operations designed to exploit, coerce, and discard anyone who resisted, and the feds say they have the receipts. Hundreds of interviews, surveillance footage, text messages, emails, and testimonies, painting a clear picture of a powerful man abusing his reach and resources to trap others in silence. The Southern District of New York, known for their 97% conviction rate, is not a district that takes on weak cases. Legal experts say they wouldn't be moving forward unless they believed they had overwhelming evidence to crush the defense. This isn't a lawsuit hoping for a payout. It's a federal prosecution looking to put Diddy behind bars for decades, possibly life. The implication is clear. The government believes this was a criminal enterprise masked by celebrity status, with multiple victims, multiple crimes, and multiple players. If prosecutors can prove the coordination and intent behind the freak-offs, the abuse, and the silence, they won't just take down Diddy, they'll expose the mechanics of power that have protected predators in the entertainment industry for far too long, and this case, already filled with disturbing details, may only be the beginning.
On September 16, 2024, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs was arrested in New York City and charged with racketeering, trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in relations for money. Prosecutors allege Diddy ran a criminal enterprise involving forced labor, kidnapping, and bribery.
As the prosecution builds a case portraying Diddy as a cold mastermind behind a secret criminal empire, his defense team is working overtime to flip the narrative and paint a radically different picture, one where Diddy isn't the predator, but the misunderstood target of exaggeration, revenge, and media hysteria. The core of the defense's strategy is not denial, it's reframing. In a move that stunned courtroom observers, Diddy's attorneys openly admitted to elements of domestic violence, not to excuse them, but to argue that the relationship with Cassie was mutually toxic, with hitting on both sides. According to them, Diddy wasn't a monster, but a man trapped in a volatile, emotionally chaotic relationship where both parties lashed out. They claimed that Cassie, far from being coerced, was strong, independent, and in full control of her choices, even during the most controversial moments now under legal scrutiny. His lawyers insist that the sex parties, the recordings, and even the now infamous hotel video have all been taken out of context or deceptively edited, framing a narrative that fits the prosecution's agenda rather than the truth. Diddy's team has filed multiple motions to suppress critical evidence, including that damaging footage and the search warrants used to seize digital content from his homes and iCloud accounts. They argue these searches were unconstitutional, based on manipulated information, and designed to publicly shame him before the trial even began. In their words, this is a witch hunt, orchestrated not to deliver justice, but to destroy a man who, for decades, has been a pillar of black excellence in entertainment and business. But as powerful as their courtroom tactics might be, public perception is shifting fast, and the contradiction between Diddy's teary public apology and the new claim that the video is fake has many wondering which version of Diddy is the real one.
What came out of today's hearing? Number one, the government acknowledged that they offered Combs a plea deal. Combs acknowledged he has no interest in taking that. They're going to move forward with the trial. They also talked about the jury selection process, which one legal expert I spoke to said is probably the most important thing that you want to pay close attention to before the actual trial starts.
The businessman seeking forgiveness, or the accused trafficker fighting to erase the evidence. For the jury, the challenge will be separating image from reality and truth from performance. Diddy's defense is betting everything on casting doubt, humanizing his flaws, and arguing that Cassie, and possibly others, are not victims, but ex-lovers with an agenda. But with the weight of federal charges, graphic evidence, and key testimonies mounting against him, the line between victim and villain is starting to collapse. And if the jury doesn't buy the defense's version of events, no amount of spin will be enough to save him. What began as whispers has erupted into a roar, and the public's reaction to the Diddy trial is no longer just curiosity, it's a full-blown reckoning. For years, stories about Diddy's behind-the-scenes behavior floated across forums, podcasts, and backstage circles, dark rumors dismissed as too wild to be true. But now, as court transcripts, video footage, and first-hand testimony emerge, silence has given way to rage. The outrage isn't just about what Diddy allegedly did, it's about how long it was allowed to go on and how many powerful people may have helped keep it quiet. Social media has exploded with commentary, dissecting every piece of evidence and pointing fingers at celebrities who once praised Diddy or attended his now infamous parties. Joe Rogan called it early, comparing the claims to an Epstein-like operation, suggesting Diddy used wealth and manipulation to compromise others while hiding behind fame. Elon Musk questioned the political ties, asking why so many public figures who aligned themselves with Diddy never spoke up about his alleged behavior. Meanwhile, comedian and truth-teller Cat Williams echoed long-standing suspicions, warning that what's being uncovered now is just the tip of a much darker iceberg. But beyond the headlines, there's a growing feeling of betrayal.
The last hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts, when he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings.
Fans who once idolized Diddy now feel complicit, realizing they were cheering for someone who may have been hiding horrific crimes behind chart-topping hits and champagne toasts. There's also a brewing anger at the system that enabled him. Media outlets that looked the other way, collaborators who stayed silent, and gatekeepers who protected his image while victims were allegedly trapped behind closed doors. As more celebrities distance themselves and others nervously await to see if they'll be named in court, the entertainment world is on edge. And what's fueling the fire isn't just the shocking details, it's the realization that the entire industry may have been complicit in protecting a predator. The court of public opinion is already in session, and while the jury is still being seated in the courtroom, millions have made up their minds outside it. But the real question, haunting fans and insiders alike, is this. If someone as powerful and visible as Diddy could hide something like this for so long, how many more secrets are still buried? And who else knew the truth but stayed quiet? As this case unfolds with every shocking testimony and explosive allegation, it's becoming clear that what's happening in Diddy's courtroom isn't just a scandal. It's a reflection of a system where power shields predators and corruption festers behind the illusion of celebrity. What we're witnessing isn't simply the fall of a man, but the unraveling of a myth. The myth that fame equals virtue, that success makes someone untouchable, and that those at the top couldn't possibly be capable of the things whispered about in private. Diddy didn't build his empire overnight. He rose through a culture that rewarded charisma over character, money over morality, and influence over integrity. And now, as prosecutors lay out years of alleged manipulation, abuse, and criminal enterprise, we're forced to ask the question.
Where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album.
Was this always who he was, or did unimaginable power simply reveal what was already inside? It's a terrifying but necessary question, because Diddy is not the first powerful figure to face these kinds of allegations, and if the industry doesn't change, he won't be the last. The comparisons to Epstein aren't just about the accusations, they're about the systems of silence, the network of enablers, and the machinery of fame that disguises predatory behavior as eccentricity or excess. Even worse, the very people who claim to advocate for justice and reform are now being scrutinized for their past associations, raising the uncomfortable possibility that silence was bought and morality was for sale. For decades, fans idolized Diddy as a cultural icon, a mogul, a genius, but as the trial pulls back the curtain, what's being exposed is a legacy soaked in shadows. If even half of what's been alleged holds true, this isn't just one man's downfall, it's a mirror to an entire entertainment empire that let power mutate into unchecked dominance. The freak-offs, the tapes, the coercion, the NDAs, these aren't isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a deeper disease, one where image and status were used not to uplift, but to control, exploit, and destroy. And in the end, this trial may not just determine Diddy's guilt. It might determine whether an entire industry is finally ready to confront the monsters it helped create. As the trial barrels toward opening statements and the full weight of testimony, evidence, and exposure crashes down, it's no longer a matter of whether Diddy's legacy will survive. It's about how much more will come to light before it all burns.
The allegations are disturbing.
Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15.
With Cassie preparing to face him in open court, with prosecutors poised to play tapes that were never meant to be seen, and with federal agents standing behind every allegation, the empire once built on platinum records and red carpet appearances is now cracking under the strain of reality. But this story was never just about Diddy, it's about the hidden cost of power, the price of silence, and the invisible lines that separate fame from accountability. For too long, the music industry, like so many corners of entertainment, allowed the myth to eclipse the man, ignoring the warning signs in favor of brand deals, awards, and sold-out arenas. And now, those warning signs have erupted into a full-blown reckoning. Whether Diddy is found guilty or not, his trial has already changed the conversation. It's made people ask who else knew, who else stayed quiet, and what other stories are still buried beneath the surface. When the jury takes their seats and the courtroom doors close, the world will be watching not just for justice, but for a signal that no amount of fame can shield someone forever. In the coming weeks, we're going to hear stories that disturb, details that disgust, and facts that challenge what we thought we knew about one of the biggest names in modern music. Stay alert, because every day of this trial is peeling back a layer of a reality far darker than the one we were sold. And by the time this is over, the question won't just be what Diddy did, it'll be how far this web really stretches and who's next.